Ya, hai all. Assalamualaikum semua. Kembali dengan Neuro di Expert Talk with Dr Choy Su. Okay, Choy, can you introduce yourself?
Okay. Hi everyone. I'm Dr. Choi. I'm a reading specialist. So what I do is I help kids with learning disabilities to read and write, and specifically those with dyslexia, dysgraphia, and dyscalculia. Um, we do have students other than those with learning difficulties. We have students coming in who have global development delay or slow learner, ADHD, as well as mild autism, but those are the very high functioning type. So we do have various types of students learning and taking up literacy classes with us.
Okay, that's good. Okay, saya dah lama nak cari doktor. Thank you, doctor, for accepting my invitation. Alright, I know your schedule is very packed, and thank you so much. Alright, kita orang teruskan kepada soalan nombor 1. Okay, what is therapist? What is therapist criteria? Apa itu therapist dan apa kriteria therapist?
Okay, by therapist is a person in general lah. If you're talking about you want me to continue in bahasa, maybe I campur sikit in bahasa. Makna terapi itu ahli terapi sebenarnya dalam allied health, bidang allied health, ialah seorang yang telah menghabiskan at least 3 tahun untuk bachelor dia. For example, misal kata speech therapist ataupun occupational therapist. Kan mereka mesti belajar 3 tahun untuk dapat bachelor's. Selepas tu mereka buat practicum at a center that is related to their field. And lepas tu baru mereka boleh digelar therapist. So therapist bukan seorang yang sekadar join satu kelas 3 hari, lepas tu dia dah kata dia upskill. So that is not. So they need to have at least a 3-year minimum kind of academic background or foundation in the foundations of science. And after that, they are able to how do you say act as a therapist independently.
Doktor, yang berlatih berapa tahun kalau praktis ni untuk jadi terapi? Is it setahun or 3 tahun juga?
It depends on the field. Different specialization line. So, for example, OT and speech, usually they just have like the internship, and then they do the practicum during the internship, right? If psychologists, I think mereka perlu at least 1,000 or 2,000 hours, I can't remember, around there of practicum. So they need to meet the minimum number of hours. For like ourselves, we also need to study for 3 years after selepas bachelor's. So we need to take a certification, postgraduate certification. So kita punya course ni pun 3 tahun, and then we have to take about 300 hours of practicum at least.
Ini kalau diploma, they cannot practice doing therapy or counselling apa-apa, betul tak?
Not that I'm aware of lah. Yeah, they can act as a support team definitely, but not cannot call themselves a therapist.
I see. So first of all, mesti kena ada diploma, itu basic, and then kena ada degree holder. Belajar for 3 years and then kena intern, kena practice. Mesti practice dan boleh go independently. So kalau same goes to master and PhD. Mesti ada 4 basic ni sebelum jadi independent. Kalau intern and especially I think Doctor mentioned before interview dekat IIUM, it's common that orang ambil kelas satu hari punya kelas, tiba-tiba boleh jadi terapis. It's
Yeah.
good, isn't it? Betul tak, Dok?
Yes. I mean,
Okay.
if you want to follow the proper scientific kind of pathway lah, yeah.
Yeah. So be careful you guys. Bukan saya pun pernah kena dan rupanya ramai orang kena. So careful. Like I said, 4 kriteria ni mesti ada dan juga diorang kena practice. Intern tak boleh, okay? Alright, shall we go to question number 2? What is dyslexia? Apa itu dyslexia?
Okay, dyslexia, in a nutshell, is basically a condition, is a language, if I don't want to use the word disability, tapi the correct definition like it's a language disability. So meaning the person with this condition, the brain is wired a little bit differently, and then they have difficulty with learning to read. Some of them may also have speech delay because it's also a language related issue, but not all of them may have. Some of them are just having difficulty with reading, and then some also with spelling as well. Yeah, so that is dyslexia, difficulty with reading. Yeah.
And it doesn't not involve with how to say, with emotion, correct? Not as like ADHD.
Doesn't involve, sorry?
Dyslexia ni tak ada kena-mengena dengan emosi, tak seperti macam ADHD.
Tak ada. So the emotional, if there's any part, is only because of their frustration in not being able to read, but it's not directly related to, the condition itself doesn't cause behaviors lah. Yeah.
Okay. Alright. What is dysgraphia and dyscalculia? Apa itu dysgraphia and dyscalculia? Ramai orang confused yang ni.
Okay, so these 3Ds are usually in the learning disability punya group lah. So dyslexia is difficulty with reading, dysgraphia is difficulty with writing or the output or spelling, and then dyscalculia is difficulty with understanding maths concepts. So when you have difficulty with both numbers and letters, then in school you tend to struggle a little bit. Yeah.
Yep. I can feel it. Okay. Question number 4 is very crucial. Saya rasa ramai orang still confused. Okay. Even cikgu, I need to make awareness juga. Cikgu pendidikan khas tu betul. Tapi kadang-kadang cikgu-cikgu pendidikan khas pun confused antara dysgraphia dengan inilah 3D inilah. Okay. So my question number 4 will be all this dysgraphia and dyscalculia, is it the same as dyslexia? Most people confuse that not all dyslexia has other disability. Sometimes other neurodivergent has this comorbid. For example, ADHD with dyscalculia. Can you clarify it, Doctor? Adakah semua dyscalculia dan dyscalculia sama seperti dyslexia? Kebanyakan orang keliru bahawa tidak semua dyslexia mempunyai dyscalculia dan dyscalculia. Kadang-kadang neurodivergent yang lain mempunyai gabungan bersama ini. Contohnya ADHD dengan dyscalculia. Boleh Doktor jelaskan?
Okay. So first of all, a person can have just one condition, let's say dyslexia, right? And dyslexia itself, because of its relationship with like reading and all that, difficulty of reading. So when you sometimes do maths, especially when it comes to word problems, you will have difficulty because you don't understand the question. And because dyslexia also affects your concept of time, for example, and therefore certain concepts in maths like time, you want to read the clock and all that, so they find it particularly difficult. But it doesn't mean that they have dyscalculia. It's just that that part is maybe a part of dyslexia itself, but it's not like very severe, but it will take a bit more time just to get that part. Whereas there are some kids who have more than one condition, so they can have dyslexia plus dysgraphia. Before I talk about dysgraphia, so for kids with dyslexia, they may also have problems with spelling as well, right? So when they have problems with spelling, this one, it can be overcome. It's just that they need to learn the same skills. They need to learn how to use the sounds to spell as well, right? So then they can manage that a little bit better. So those with two different conditions, let's say dyslexia plus dysgraphia. So you can see very obvious that the child with dysgraphia have very strong resistance to writing, right? Even you ask them to pick up the pen, it's like a lot of resistance and things like that. Yeah. So because and not because they want to cause trouble or whatever, but it's because it's a very stressful thing for them. Dysgraphia means that the flow from the thought to the hand is slightly impaired. So the output is a bit slower in terms of that process. So some of the kids eventually overcome learning, but overcome reading, so they can read better, but the spelling, they will still struggle a bit more, right? So, and with the kids with dysgraphia, they will not only have trouble with spelling, but in terms of articulating their thoughts into sentences as well. So if you ask them to write a whole essay, it's quite difficult. And you can see, it's very obvious if you ask them to tell you a story, they can talk a lot, right? The story very nice, the cerita bagus sangat and all that. But once they write down in paper, satu line saja, right? Tak boleh keluar, because it's stuck from the thought to the hand. It cannot come out from the hand, right? So but cakap, wah, terror, very good. So this, you can see that kind of difference lah. So kids with dyslexia plus dyscalculia, for example, those kids with dyscalculia, they really have a difficulty with understanding all the different concepts of maths, whether it's times table or it's fractions or many other things lah. So, or decimal points and all that, they will have a very difficult problem understanding those. So they will need more multisensory approach in order to help them. Other conditions, let's say with ADHD, other comorbidities with ADHD or with global development delay, those are quite different conditions altogether lah. Yeah.
I see, Doctor that explained very short, detailed. Okay, be careful when people say that I have ADHD with dyscalculia. Doesn't mean that orang tu ada dyslexia. Ada orang memang saya ada jumpa juga Mak Saleh, dia hanya ada dyscalculia saja, dia tak ada dyslexia. Pun boleh jadi juga kan, Doktor?
Yeah. One thing I want to mention about ADHD is that there are two types of ADHD. One is the hyperactive one, and one is the opposite, right? So that means they are very, suddenly I forgot the word, they are very quiet and they don't have a lot of focus. And I've worked with ADHD children before. So those that are hyper one, they are not necessarily just like a lot of movement or running around. They are also not there, right? They may be sitting in front of you, but their mind is really somewhere else. Yeah. So some of them may require medication. So when they take that medication, you can see a very big difference in terms of their attentiveness. Then suddenly they're back in the classroom, that kind of thing. And they can focus and they can take more instruction. So, but this medication kind of thing is a little bit controversial. Some parents don't believe in taking it because it's they say got side effects and all that. So, but I'm not the one who's dispensing medicine. It's just feedback from some parents. they have very two strong views lah. One will say, no, I don't want the side effects. I just manage it with therapy. Another category of parents will say, yes, give them that medication, but manage the dosage, because if they don't take the medicine, it is almost as if they are not there and they miss their whole childhood, and they are not even learning in school because they are just not there, right? The body physically is there, yes, but then the mind is, you'll be moving here and there and different things, yeah. So that's ADHD, and because they are not focused, it affects their learning, not because of dyslexia. Yeah, so it's a different, it will affect their learning, not because of dyslexia. Dyslexia is, the brain is just wired differently and they learn differently.
Yeah, basically what you mentioned is exactly apa nak kata, apa yang doktor terangkan ni sebiji macam saya lah. Okay, I am surprised that I have ADHD. I thought I have all these four comorbid, which is dysgraphia, dyscalculia. Turns out, oh no, I have ADHD. Alright. I want to highlight, not like exactly Dr. cakap, tak semua ADHD hyper. Kadang-kadang ini, saya hyper di sini. Okay. When it comes to, I think you already saw my email semua kan. I'm very short sentence. I don't make a long sentence. Okay. And about ubat, like Dr. mentioned, okay, please do your homework. Tanya doktor pakar apa the side effect. Sebenarnya semua ubat ada side effect. Kita kena ikut apa nak katakan doktor punya prescription lah. Makan banyak mana, makan ini. Okay. I like you highlight about ADHD. Sometimes lah, kita kita tengok parents or orang luar akan tengok all the ADHD. Oh, you seem fine, you don't need a medication, but diorang sebenarnya sakit juga sebenarnya. Diorang macam like I say lah, zone out. Macam I am there, I am in the class, but I can't focus. I can't focus. I cannot terima ilmu. So please you guys minta pandangan daripada doktor pakar sebelum buat sesuatu keputusan. I want to highlight, does teacher with special need able to say, boleh ke diorang cakap tak boleh ambil ubat? Or diorang perlu kat ubat?
The therapist, is it? Or the teacher?
I heard teacher.
Teacher.
Special need teacher. Boleh ke diorang bagi tahu dekat parent, oh, budak ni tak perlu ubat sebab dia tak fokus, tak payah ambil ubat?
Well, they are not, if they are not the psychiatrist or the person who is licensed to dispense or prescribe the medicine, then they are not in a position to advise anything, whether to take or don't take. Also, they cannot advise. Yeah, whatever they advise is just their opinion, and they cannot also be responsible for the outcome of the opinion, right? Because it's not medical advice.
Diorang boleh bagi tahu efek ubat tu pada kanak-kanak, tetapi mereka tidak boleh bagi tahu, oh, budak ni tak perlu ambil ubat. Itu actually sudah salah lah kan. Alright.
Yeah.
We continue with question number 5. Alright. Terlalu banyak about kids. Artikel pun banyak pasal kids. Okay, I think you saw my TikTok, okay, booming. And then I juga cukup kesian juga. What is the time for teen and adult? At what age can dyslexia get diagnosed or screening? Apakah tanda dyslexia bagi remaja dan dewasa? Pada umur berapa dyslexia boleh diagnose ataupun screening?
Okay, for screening, you can start as early as 4 years old, and for formal diagnosis is 7 years old. So the signs Ada banyak lah. I mean, the most obvious one is if the child is not able to, remember or recall the ABC. And then there are other signs like, they can't tie their shoelace. And then maybe the handwriting also sometimes you can see that it's a bit, not as nice and not as neat, and it's a bit slower than other kids in terms of learning. So those are some of the early signs. As for teens, basically overall, because they are so like advanced already, right? The only major difference is that you can see that they are behind in terms of their studies compared to their friends or their peers. Yeah, because in other areas, maybe they may have learned how to cope, already. It's just that the literacy part is still behind, and therefore it will affect their studies.
Betul.
Yeah.
I saw one adult waktu saya interview. Dia he still mengeja sambil membaca. Tapi saya tak tahu whether he has or he has not. Semua ni lah. Tapi I can see he is struggle reading. Dah besar ni, masih mengeja sambil membaca. So it could be dyslexia. Remember, there is some condition mimicking dyslexia. Ada beberapa kondisi yang mimik dyslexia. Tak semestinya seseorang tu ada masalah membaca considered as dyslexia. Yeah, alright.
Actually, if someone has literacy problems, as an adult, they could be more than one condition. It may not only be dyslexia. Another reason is because of poverty. They just do not have access to education, and therefore they cannot read, right? But if let's say they have access to education, for all you know, they can, right? So poverty is also a reason where they cannot read. So for adults, you have to judge them a little bit. I mean, you have to see the circumstances a little bit differently lah. Yeah.
Meaning what you're trying to say, meaning orang yang tak pergi sekolah, is it betul tak? Yang macam tu?
Yes, tak pergi sekolah, tak ada opportunity lah to attend school, or maybe they are forced to drop out of school to help the family and all that. So those are circumstantial conditions lah. Yeah.
I like your highlight because pada zaman saya ada it's very unfortunately ada yang kawan-kawan saya bijak-bijak semua kan, tapi because of the parents say nak pergi sekolah ke tak nak, it's your choice. So pada zaman tu, zaman 90s, zaman 80s, it's just like benda tu pilihan, which is very bad. So sayanglah, ada yang bijak-bijak. I can see this person can be a doctor, tapi dia belajar sampai darjah 6 saja, UPSR. So nak jadi doktor tu susah sikit lah. Itulah, sedih lah kat situ.
Right.
Okay. Alright, number 5. At your center, you provide alternative ham reading specialist. Can you explain to me what is that? Do you provide this service to teen and adult? This center, doktor, ada servis Orton Gillihan kepakaran membaca. Boleh terangkan apa itu Orton Gillihan servis? Ini terbuka pada dyslexia remaja dan dewasa. I think better you explain in bahasa.
Okay. So Orton Gillingham ini ialah approach untuk mengajar kanak-kanak atau sesiapa yang ada dyslexia. So ini ada sesuatu cara mengajar pembacaran yang sangat berstruktur, dan dia ada teknik-tekniknya lah yang istimewa. So Orton Gillingham ini diasaskan oleh Dr. Samuel Orton dan Anna Gillingham. That's why it's called Orton Gillingham. And ia telah telah diasaskan sejak 1920-an. So it's actually quite long, over about 70 years, right? Only in Malaysia lambat sikit lah nak masuk sini as usual. So is evidence-based, is based on reading science, right? That means evidence-based means dia telah disahkan atau dalam akademia, bila kita nak mengeluarkan sesuatu teori, kita perlu test dengan rakan-rakan sebaya. That means it's called peer review, right? So bila kita teori kita diletakkan di kepada peers untuk ditest, dan kalau dia tak survive peer review, maknanya teori atau teknik itu tak jadilah, tak lakulah. Right? So but if it survives the peer review, and then a lot of them say that it's a technique that works, that means ia adalah satu teknik yang bagus, dan memangnya secara independent, because all these people who review have nothing to do with the pengasas teknik itu, right? Ada banyak teknik yang mereka mengasaskan tapi mereka sendiri kata dia bagus. So itu duduk dalam bakul cakap sendiri bagus kan. But if peer review tak boleh, because other people are reviewing you. So you kena ketuk left, right and center lah. You have to survive it. So your method need to survive that, all the ketukan, right? So once you survive all the ketukan, then it's considered something that is evidence-based, right? And it's proven lah, boleh pakai lah, right? So Autumn Gillingham is one of those. Dia ada lebih 100,000 research papers to prove that it works lah, or effective. And usually kami offer classes untuk kanak-kanak, sebab kebanyakan yang datang kepada kami adalah parents dengan kanak-kanak kecil lah. Mereka worried kan, sebab dia masih kecil, then dia takut mereka tak boleh cope at school and so forth. Kalau remaja, we also teach remaja. We have like 5 or 6 teenagers at our center, but not that many lah. I think because some parents, if they don't even notice that their kids ada condition sampai remaja, maybe some of them even don't notice at all, right? Even ada masalah pun dia kata dia tak tahu masalah ini ialah dyslexia, so they just biarkan, so they don't actually seek help. Whereas adults, we don't have any adult students, because most adults, I think, sudah they found a way to, even though they can't read very well, they found a way to cope, whether it's use Google or Microsoft or whatever lah. Actually now compared to last time, dyslexics are very lucky or fortunate, because there's a lot of technology tools. Mobile apps pun banyak. Okay, so you can use a lot of things to help you to survive day to day. So for example, like my bahasa Cina not very good, right? So I also, like, let's say I can consider I'm not literate in Chinese. I'm dyslexic in Chinese, for example, right? I cannot read Chinese. So I also have to use all these tools to help myself, right? Translate whatever lah. So for adults with dyslexia, they have now a lot of tools to rely on, and also they feel maybe a bit malas lah to go back to school, right? Start from scratch. If they start from scratch, they have to learn from ABC, you know, because literally ABC, because we have to teach from the foundation, and one level builds on top of the other. You cannot go from level 1 then terus jump to level 6. Right, so the is layered, so you have to know the basics and only go up. So that's why we don't actually have a lot of adult students lah. Yeah.
Yang kebanyakan pakar membuat assessment kan, nak tengok level mana teen or adult tu berada tahap mana kan sebelum provide classes, right? Itulah saya just nak bagi tahu kepada adult dyslexia, it's okay to go to the center actually. It's okay. You'll be shocked. Okay, korang akan terkejut, ramai. Ada je umur 30 pergi center belajar balik. Yang penting ilmu jangan malu. Itu saja saya nak cakap. Ilmu jangan malu. You don't need to tell to your social media tak apa. Just go for your own benefit, untuk diri sendiri. Sebab kita perlu atasi masalah itu. Jangan simpan lagi susah sebenarnya. Okay. Even I can read, I can measure, but sometimes like doing research so many apa nak katakan word, I do find it very macam susah nak faham satu dan juga susah nak fokus because I have ADHD. So it takes time for me to read and kalau korang nak belajar from Dr. Choy, you can also boleh juga kan?
Yes, yes.
Okay, yes.
Yeah.
Dr. Choy boleh ajar. Dr. Choy boleh ajar. Okay, no need to be malu-malu. As long you atasi masalah yang korang ada tu, then you're in a good path. Okay, yang penting journey. Okay, journey itu. Alright.
Actually, at our center, like our policy, right, we have quite a strict confidentiality clause, meaning we don't actually tell people who our students are, right? Even if we have interns coming in, we have to get the parents' permission for them to sit in and observe. So, and then we have students from university writing in to do research at our center. So we also tell them the same thing. We have to get the parents' consent first. Otherwise, you cannot just simply come in and use them as your guinea pig or something for analysis. So even if you look at my social media, my Facebook, TikTok, and whatever, I don't use kids in any of my posts, right? If got also you tak tengok muka. If you do see any, those are either from image bank or those are like one-off events where I paid influencers and their whole family to come, and then that's an event and all the pictures are taken, right? So those are like special case. So but the students itself specifically, you wouldn't see their face one. So whoever comes to our center, you can be assured that we won't be using your kids, for publicity or for whatever reason. Yeah. Because I know that there are a lot, Facebook, TikTok, whatever you see, definitely banyak image kanak-kanak, but we don't do that. Yeah. So I don't believe in doing that lah. We protect the kids' privacy lah. So if you're an adult also, we will protect your privacy. Jangan takut. Nobody will know you come. So
I also doing research about dyslexia, with my friend. Memang even that I think you guys penonton, you guys know about teacher Suraya, okay? Even teacher Suraya told me, Amani, do not take a picture of the kids. Kalau you nak tangkap gambar, jangan post on social media. Sebab saya nak buat research kan, even very very well protected unless parents bagi bolehlah kalau kita post kan, tapi kena ada consent letter tu lah, right? Mana-mana center semua very strict, so don't worry, okay? Alright, question number 6. What is the difference between normal reading and reading therapy? Apa perbezaan antara membaca biasa dengan terapi membaca? Zaman saya tak tahu pun benda-benda ni. Saya tahu saya didiagnose tapi saya tidak pergi mana-mana center, which is very bad. Very very bad. Like you said, we mostly 90s banyak coping sendirilah. So I think that parents feel pressure, sending kids to therapy, and then ada orang cakap, oh bacalah anakku, apa susah sangat, kenapa nak pergi terapi, baca je pun. What is your feedback?
Okay, the normal reading programs, they are programs, right? So normally it is it has a syllabus. Let's say buku A to buku C lah, okay, the syllabus. So they just have to follow lah. First you finish book A, then you finish book B, then you finish book C, and then it goes on like that. So there are some programs that are slightly better than other programs. So the normal programs for normal kids, actually for normal kids, any program they go also dia boleh belajar punya. right? Because their brains are already wired that way. So dia lebih senang belajar. So any program also boleh. So there are some which are maybe just a little bit slower or behind, then the slightly programs can help them. Slightly better reading programs can help them. But for reading therapy, is very different altogether. So for reading programs, anyone can just take up a course, because those courses are either 1 day, 3 days, 1 week, very short courses. And lepas tu you boleh terus mengajar, right? You upskill yourself lah from these courses. But for therapy, like I say, you need to, this is a 3-year course. And there are many techniques, many theories that you need to learn, and also you need to have a supervised practicum. We won't allow you to terus ajar, selepas class. And you cannot also teach independently. You're not allowed to, right? So that's the difference. And so the therapist would be able to customize the plan, the therapy plan for the child, whereas the reading programs, you follow the program. So whether you follow ke tak follow, you still jalan saja A to C, buku A to C. But for the therapist, we will look at what the child can do in today's lesson, then we will plan for the next lesson, right? So kita tak semestinya A to B. We can do A to C, C to B back, or whatever. So we have that flexibility, and we have that intuition and also that knowledge to customize that program for the child. So we can go as fast as the child needs to, or we can go as slow as the child has to, right? Yeah, so it's very very well crafted specifically for the child. So that's why every child, the program will not be the same one when they come to us.
I think that most of my viewers already see how teacher Suraya free education, macam mana dia mengajar ABC, it's completely different from normal kids. Okay, I'm sure Orton Gidehan pun ada teknik-teknik yang very surprising lah. I also don't know. Tapi I'm sure you very macam mana nak katakan membuka mata lah. Okay, it's 3 years program. Ya, Dyslexia mengambil masa yang agak lama untuk seek some certain skill tu kan. Lagi lama daripada orang biasa.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you explain about screening and assessment? Boleh beritahu apa perbezaan screening and assessment? Other parents still confused about this, and some believe that assessment is diagnosis. And can you clarify it?
Okay, it's 2 different things. Screening.
Sorry, doctor. I think better this part is very penting. Berbahasa Melayu lah.
Oh, okay. All right. So screening is in Malay it's called what already? Saringan. Yeah, screening is saringan. So saringan tu ia adalah satu test yang bukan not as detailed, compared to the formal diagnosis, right? So saringan itu dia test risiko dyslexia, right? So selepas saringan, doktor akan bagi tahu anak you adalah high risk, moderate risk, or low risk of dyslexia, right? So it's a risk indication. So bila kita tahu lepas saringan bahawa you high risk atau moderate risk, then ibu bapa boleh terus ambil tindakan untuk buat terapi or early intervention, right? Sebab saringan boleh dibuat seawal 4 tahun. So the results of the saringan ialah risk of dyslexia, right? So but the results of a formal diagnosis atau bukan assessment lah, we call it diagnosis lah, because assessment can be any assessment, right? So we call it diagnosis, formal diagnosis. So the result of a formal diagnosis is that seseorang itu akan diberi diagnosis tu lah, sama ada diagnosis itu dyslexia, so it's a confirmed condition, right? So the diagnosis will say you have dyslexia. So the earlier one, the saringan, you have a risk of dyslexia. So the risk indication lebih kurang 75 atau hingga 85% accurate, but it's good enough lah as an indication, because kalau 75 hingga 85% accurate in terms of the risk, is quite high likely that you will be formally diagnosed with dyslexia also subsequently, right? Or maybe it's other condition that is causing the delay lah. So that there will be something, right? So, but the formal diagnosis is the confirm confirm one. Yeah. So it's like you have this. Yeah.
Apa ni, for me, if you guys rasa maybe tak ada, boleh buat screening dulu. Soalnya screening kena bawah kena bersama dengan doktor, betul? Screening.
Yes, you can do screening di hospital dengan developmental pediatrician. Okay, so not the normal pediatrician, but developmental pediatrician. So mereka ada tools dia lah, either whether it's the junior dyslexia assessment ke or whatever. So these will be the tools they use untuk buat saringan lah for anak. You will also need to see them once they turn 7, umur 7. Because then that's when they can give the formal diagnosis, right? Yang confirm punya lah. So,
tapi macam zaman saya, is conducted by special need teacher, guru pendidikan khas. Zaman sekarang boleh lagi ke for screening?
That's why the term screening has been a bit loosely used. Because some screening, they are considered like a non-standardized test, right? There are two types of tests, standardized tests and non-standardized tests. So kalau you guna standardized test, so standardized test ialah test yang how to say, recognize diiktirafkan lah seluruh dunia. So for example, the junior dyslexia test, if you use that as the screening tool, then itulah test yang standardized or formal, right? If let's say you guna tools like WIS and WIRED untuk diagnosis, then that's the standardized test. So why it's important to use standardized test? That means test yang standard lah. Sebab yang test tu atau yang tools tu, mereka sudah test population atau sample size kanak-kanak yang banyak, and then so dalam sampel yang banyak tu all these criteria kalau you ada, then sememangnya you ada condition A ke condition B or C and D, right? So and this is all scientifically tested, whereas non-standardized tools kalau digunakan untuk saringan, dia tak ada scientific base in terms of, you know, the sample size and all that. That's why it's called non-standardized test. So kita boleh guna non-standardized test. Kalau kita as an entrance test, maybe ke sekolah ke, you know, you want to do a test for all the kids before masuk kindergarten, before masuk standard 1, kita boleh gunakan non-standardized test untuk check sama ada di mana lah tahap pembacaan kanak-kanak. You can use that kind of test, but it will be more for the purpose of teaching rather than to diagnose and to tell you what level you are.
Tapi ini kena bawah pengawasan doktor ataupun teacher lah juga kan, sebelum pergi formal diagnosis kalau screening.
Screening also done by doctor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ini in like I think that in the world banyak sangat online screening. Is it advisable for people to do this online screening?
You can do that kalau you curious lah, you know, you nak tahu sama ada you ada ke tak sebelum you tengok doktor, right? But ultimately, if you want a formal letter, then you have to get it from the doctor lah.
Betul. Because
You nak tahu sendiri, ya boleh lah. You can just do the online test, ya.
lebih baik bagi saya, lebih baik macam pergi jumpa Dr. Choy, because Dr. Choy akan menilai screening dan juga behavior seseorang itu, and then from there she can advise you to go or whether not to go to common diagnosis lah. Alright, especially for teens and adult. I honestly bukan saya tak nak promote online screening, but based what expert told me, it is not very apa nak katakan advisable to you to do online screening by yourself without doctor punya supervision. I think if you guys go to Dr. Choy for screening, you also do a screening for adult, adakah? Teen ada, right?
We do have a screening tool, but nowadays I would just refer them to doctors lah. Yeah, because firstly, most of them, in addition to just dyslexia, they may have other conditions, right? So the screening tool only screens for dyslexia, whereas I feel that personally, it's better if they let the doctor see the child's overall development so that they can not only tell you whether they only have dyslexia, but maybe, you know, very early on, they can tell you they also have ADHD or they also have something else, right? So, and that's important.
And nak bagi tahu kat semua orang, Doktor Clinical Psychology and Psychiatry untuk teens and adult bukan sahaja boleh diagnose for neurodivergent tapi also mental health also. Especially ADHD, banyak mimicking condition of ADHD rupanya, especially anxiety kan mimic as ADHD, tapi ada juga ADHD bersama anxiety. Please refer to doctor ya. Alright. Okay, I think this is last question. Okay, you guys, siapa-siapa nak tanya soalan, alright, boleh tanya sekarang. Nanti saya akan bacalah. Alright. What message do you want to give to the teens who are trapped to get screening or formal diagnosis by parents who don't believe about neurodivergence? Apa message doktor pada remaja yang tersangkut untuk mendapat screening dan diagnose oleh ibu bapa yang tak percaya tentang dyslexia ni?
Well, if let's say the parents tak percaya, maybe what you can do is to talk to a teacher, right, at school, or a counselor at school, and get them to talk to your parents, right? So maybe adult to adult is easier lah, than maybe yourself telling the parent, right? So that is one approach. But if let's say after the teacher dah cakap dengan parents, still tak percaya, then you can just, I think, try to get help from the teachers at school who are supporting you, right? Because ultimately the educators are at school, and they will, if you can find a good teacher, a good mentor, then they will be able to help you. Yeah.
I'm a very good teacher, bukan teacher yang gosip-gosip. I think this is, I have to highlight this also because saya pun pernah kena, not in school lah, self-claim expert semua ni. So hati-hati yang jenis yang suka bergosip. Okay, pilih yang betul-betul amanah, like I said, amanah yang trusted, qualified. Dan kalau cikgu tu make sure yang betul-betul boleh simpan rahsia, yang boleh kita bawa bincang. Okay. Alright. Any question from the viewers? Okay, ada apa-apa soalan? Kak Ann, ada tak soalan? Kan? Wan Haniza, ada tak soalan? Siapa-siapa di sini ada tak soalan? Oh, I just take social media punya soalan lah yang saya selalu dapat dekat TikTok. Okay? Alright, this is very, very interesting question I got from TikTok. Apa beza lambat dan dyslexia? Oh, saya lambat juga. Okey je. Semua orang ada a little bit of dyslexia. Saya rasa semua orang ada sedikit dyslexia. Okay. Takkanlah 3 tahun. Saya tak pandai pakai kaki kiri kanan 3 tahun. Takkan itu lambat. So can you tell to the viewers apa beza lambat dan dyslexia?
Lambat baca, is it? Or
I think in general.
right. Okay, dyslexia is considered a specific learning condition. So kalau lambat pun dia lambat pada suatu area yang spesifik lah. Okay, so whereas orang yang slow learner atau global development delay, dia akan lambat in all areas of development. Right, so that is a major difference. Those who just lambat sikit saja, you can see that after that they will pick up very fast. Kalau dia tak boleh tu, dia pun ada, I don't want to use the word lah, but they just make an excuse only lah, right? But those who really struggle dia akan, you akan rasa dia punya stress level tu, you know, you can see the genuine stress when you ask them to do something. They won't be like so berjolly-jolly, saya ada masalah. No. They boleh joking about it. So they will be really stressed. Okay, you stand up and read, then you can feel, wah, kening dia dah macam ni, dah mengeluh. So they will really, you can feel the stress level, you know, if they really have a problem. Those that maybe lambat and then after that they try to make an excuse too, then they pandai lah, can make jokes and all that lah.
I want to add on some one thing about dyslexia ni, diorang rajin tau. Diorang rajin. Diorang akan berusaha sampai sakit. Especially writing. Tapi when you see the usaha tu bertahun-tahun, tapi result dia tidak membanggakan, then it's one of the signs of dyslexia. You know, it's like, for example, a simple thing like kasut kiri dan kanan. It takes me 3 years. 3 years.
Even more.
That is beza sangat untuk orang yang kata lambat sikit. No, 3 years for kiri kanan. Even I driving, also I cannot remember. I still cannot remember the name of the road. Okay, just now I pun sesat I from IKEA Ceras nak balik rumah 5 minit saja, tapi termasuk max highway. Dah start enjoy for 2 hours. Silap saya tak nak pakai Google Google Maps. Itulah pasrah sikit.
Guna ways.
Kadang-kadang malas. Ikut saya kadang-kadang rasa macam, you know, it's very tiring to use this certain technology, because kita nak try sendiri kan. We want to try, tapi saya rasa macam, no, you need apa-apa pun, you need the technology to help you.
Actually, I mean, walaupun saya tak dyslexia, saya pun pakai Waze juga. Kenapa saya nak avoid jam? bukan malas ke apa, tapi I want to save time, right? Imagine I get stuck in a jam for 1 hour, nanti masuk, you know, itu, what do you call that? Now the flood and all that, ayo, tak boleh lah. I want to get out of there as soon as possible and go home. So just use the technology, don't worry about it. You know, tak ada malas ke tak malas, or try yourself. You just use it for the purpose of efficiency, right? Yeah, other technology to tolong you, just use it. No need to make yourself, you know, make life more difficult. Yeah.
Betul. Okay, ada question ni. Cara terbaik tarik perhatian anak-anak dyslexia minat belajar. From KN, saya nak bagi tahu dia ada anak dyslexia bersama ADHD. So it's quite difficult, especially like me also. Nak menarik minat belajar tu bukan senang. So what is your advice?
Actually, the most important is kena dapat therapy first. Sebab selagi dia tak boleh belajar, memang susah nak tarik minat dia, right? Sebab baca buku pun tak boleh baca, macam mana nak faham apa yang ada dalam buku, right? So jadi kena dia, bila dia dah boleh baca, baru dia akan dapat menarik minat dia lah sikit-sikit, and so forth lah. Yeah. So that is the most important thing.
Okay. What is your suggestion buku? Because buku pun main peranan juga, especially ADHD cepat boring. So buku macam mana yang doktor suggest untuk beli?
Tengok umur kanak-kanak tu lah, right? Kalau if let's say I'm just talking about kids in general, not just for kids with special needs. So let's say kanak-kanak tu 1 hingga 3 tahun, lebih baik kalau buku tu besar, gambar besar, okay, dan lebih gambar dari perkataan lah, right? So then they are more attracted to the books and pictures. So those are the kind of books. So it doesn't matter lah what type of book, what story. Dia tengok gambar saja. So pencerita tu yang lebih penting. That is the mother or the father. So bila you cerita, dia tengok gambar, dia rasa cerita menarik lah. Sebab pada umur tu mereka memang tak boleh baca kan, right? But you can show them the alphabets and all that, then they can have a good introduction or basic knowledge. Oh, okay, this is a word. This is if you say this, it sounds like this, right? So it's just a basic introduction. But of course, you don't force them to read lah at this stage, right? You cuba nak menarik minat saja. And also at the early stage, when you membaca dengan anak, it's more like a bonding session, right? So it's not a session where you are forcing them to learn. Saya nak you baca so that you boleh baca lebih, right? When the parents duduk untuk membaca dengan anak, mereka mesti rasa masa ini mak dan saya saja, right? It's an exclusive time. So bila dia rasa macam tu, dia naklah duduk dengan you dan baca. Mungkin mereka tak membaca sendiri, you baca untuk dia, but it's a bonding time between you and the child. Kalau you buat masa bacaan itu sebagai masa pembelajaran, mungkin dia macam ayah leceh sikit.
How about teenagers dengan adult? Macam especially adults kan baru diagnose kan, sebab anak KN ni pun nak masuk ke remaja juga ni. What is your advice orang yang nak start baca buku ni?
If they are adults and teenagers dan masih ada kesusahan membaca, boleh cuba the audiobooks. So audiobooks dia baca untuk teks tu sudah dibaca lah. So you boleh tengok teks dan dengar audio pada masa yang sama. So you boleh dapat content, dapat knowledge dari audiobooks. So that is the best one lah. Sebab kalau baca sahaja mungkin susah sikit, ataupun you tak boleh faham semua perkataan, dan masa nak habiskan buku tu pun lambat sikit lah.
Ini ada audiobook bersama teks ya?
You have to bayar sikit lah. The free ones maybe got some, but then not all the quality books or not everything you may want to look for lah. But so kalau yang nak text with the audio together, maybe you need to pay extra lah. It's not free.
Ada lah.
Ada.
Sometimes saya a bit scared, a bit skeptical, takut bayar sekarang tak ada. Oh, now I know lah, ada lah. So is it audible? Right.
I can't remember because the last time I subscribe to is more for motivational books. I lupa nama dia, but dia ada text dan also audio lah. That's not too bad as well. Yeah.
Mengapa Dr. Choy sekarang saya kena ada audio dengan membaca buku? Sometimes saya baca tu boleh, but sometimes some certain words I forget how it sounds and how to pronounce it. Kalau saya hanya dengar saja audio tanpa teks, saya tak tahu macam mana pula spelling. Itu pun susah. So saya lebih suka mendengar sambil membaca, especially kalau Netflix ke apa ke, saya suka with subtitle because from that I know how to pronounce it and how apa maksud dia, sebab English, especially English, ada banyak persamaan pronunciation that confuse me a lot. Gitu. And another thing that I want to add on is, it's okay if you want to, for adults, it's okay if you want to buy books, teenagers book like Wimpy Diary, Wimpy Diary, I cannot remember. Wimpy Cat. Okay. For starter, I want to buy that book because I ada masalah with imagination. Because bila saya membaca saja, saya tak dapat imagine, especially bila buku tu start apa nak katakan, bagi tahu rupa karakter tu. Macam mana rupa karakter tu. Saya pun perlukan ilustrasi buku dalam buku tu. The more illustration lagi bagus. So can you tell me why dyslexia, even though they are great imagination, but sometimes it happen also. Kenapa dyslexia bila baca buku dia have problem with imagination? Boleh explain tak?
Problem with imagination
I mean, because mostly orang biasa bila baca buku, they have no problem with imagine that characters look, the storyline, but sometimes for us, kita orang macam mana rupa orang tu?
I think that's very subjective because I feel that difficulty in imagining character is not just limited to those with dyslexia. Other non-dyslexics pun dia tak banyak imagination. Yeah. In fact, I think dyslexics are more creative and more imaginative.
Because kalau tanpa buku tu memang saya berimajinasi tu tak boleh kontrol lah. Tapi mereka sebut sebab kadang-kadang buku bukan setakat membaca saja. Sometimes mereka tu sejarah, benda-benda yang penting, benda-benda yang kita kena tulis on exam. Benda tu kita kena bayangkan juga. So kena bayangkan sebiji masa dalam buku tu pun susah juga bagi saya.
Yeah, because your approach to learning is more visual, right? So you need to bayangkan, but not everyone is like a visual learner. Some are auditory learner. Some, the way they visualize is not by images, but they visualize by text. So like myself, if I want to memorize something, I have to write it out. And then when I see it out and write it out, I see it on paper, then I can remember better. Some, they listen, they can remember, but my auditory is very poor. So if you tell me a phone number, I cannot remember one. For example, password, whatever, I cannot remember one. So I'm a very bad auditory learner. I have to write things down. So I think it's just a matter of different learning styles. It's not specific to dyslexic. Yeah.
Okay, macam saya cakap lah, apa-apa pun refer to expert ya. Jangan rasa diri macam ni, bukan saya tak nak support, tapi certain advice, certain ni tak berapa sesuai, and saya takut saya salahkan juga. So hati-hati whenever you guys do homework, do research, please refer back to the expert. Yeah. Okay. I think that's all from now. Thank you so much, Dr. Choy, for your brief explanation. Very, very detailed, very short. Okay. About dyslexia and also sedikit campur-campur with ADHD, autism, semua tu. Thank you so much for your time, and I think that maybe I think I can do live on TikTok.
Are you
Maybe
live now?
huh?
Are you live?
Now right now I live on Instagram. Okay, maybe we
Uh,
can find another time on TikTok because I think that TikTok ramai sangat yang nak tahu pasal adopt dyslexia and thing, and I feel so bad because banyak artikel pun banyak on the kid sebab Malaysia masih on the basic, you know. Tapi kali ni saya perasan basic yang betul-betul kukuh compare dulu-dulu lah. Alright. So I hear you guys, okay, on TikTok. I hear you guys, and I'm going to talk about more about adult neurodivergent and teen also. Okay, I don't feel left out. Alright, thank you so much, doctor, for your time for today. Even
you
though
so
you
much
are
for
very,
having
very
me.
busy. Okay, we should schedule another time for TikTok, yeah?
Boleh, boleh.
Okay, boleh ya? Okay, thank you all. Thank you. Okay, I will upload this interview on YouTube once I finish editing. I hope I can do it so fast.
Can.
Okay, bye bye. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you,
Thank you.
everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Okay,
Bye.
bye-bye.